Good evening, everyone. I, Harshal Kavre, welcome you all on behalf of Team Rashtra Darshanam IIT Guwahati. Today's talk is based on human survival and wildlife by Dr. Jeril Banai. I'll just brief you about the speaker. He is a residential dermatologist and he is a world record holder, Guinness and Limca world record holder for constructing the tallest samai in the world, as well as he is a director at Jerry Lawns, which is a tourist destination and a celebration venue, and is a pride of Nagpur as well as India. He is founder of Avi Foundation, an NGO which is working for wildlife conservation and environmental protection. He works to protect and conserve all the wild animals and in turn protect environment which is vital for human survival. He is a TEDx speaker, also a PADI certified scuba diver, as well as a youngest horse rider. He studied the Tiger Temple model in Kanchanburi district of Thailand and took training to care for rescued tigers. In India, he filed many public interest litigations in High Court for animal rights and challenged six shoot-at-sight orders given against the tigress Steven Avni, a mother of two young cubs, and also against sub-adult tigress T27 Sivan Kismat. He has fought till the Supreme Court for animal rights. He organized and coordinated a global protest to prevent the killing of tigress Steven Avni. This happened in 33 cities across 11 countries in 5 continents on the same date with same theme to save tigers, tigress Steven Avni. He has been donating solar water pumps in forests to quench the thirst of wild animals in jungles where there is man animal conflict. He has also designed, constructed, and donated soccer shaped fiberglass water tanks to forest department to provide water source for wild animals. Under banner of Avicenna, a health mission of Avi Foundation, he adopts villages near forests and organizes free of medical health camp in which he donates medicines, vaccinations, and also immunizes them. Voice for Voiceless under his banner of Avi Foundation. He delivers lecture in urban and rural population about wildlife conservation and environmental protection. He has delivered lectures at Youth Talks, Kids for Tigers, Maharashtra Times, Indian Youth Conclave, etc. He also delivered lectures on international platforms like TED. He has rescued, treated, and relocated many animals in the wild. To name a few, they are tiger, Russell viper, monitor lizard, and leopard. He has worked with tribals of Andaman and Nicobar Islands, namely Jarawa tribes, and also with Vedas tribe in Sri Lanka. He is panelist as an expert on wildlife of national and international media houses. He, because of his continued efforts, he was successful to bring changes in guidelines and standard operating procedure of National Tiger Conservation Authority, which comes under Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change under the government of India. He also filed a public interest litigation in the Honorable Supreme Court during the pandemic of COVID 19 for all the medical health workers for procuring PPEs, the kits, personal protective equipments from the government, and his prayers in the court were approved. The implementation was in all the 28 states of India, including the union territories, and the production of PPEs was boosted locally, and the beneficiaries were from tier 1 cities, also grow with tier 2 and tier 3 cities as well. He also demanded police protection for doctors and had a landmark judgment delivered by the Supreme Court. He chairs as an executive body member and legal cell head. He also invited member in the United Residents and Doctors Association in India. So he basically believes that the persistent and sincere efforts towards working for society can bring a change in everybody's life. So I sincerely welcome Dr. Jeril Banait, and we are looking for your knowledgeful talk. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Harshal. Good evening, dear all, and I would like to thank the organizers of this webinar for the work you have put in and also for inviting me for this speech. Today, two of the greatest leaders were born which the world has ever seen, Mahatma Gandhi and Sri Lal Bahadur Shastri. And I'm proud to say that they were Indians and were born in the soil of the greatest nation in the world. I take pride in saying that India is the best country in the world, and I am overwhelmed to have been born in this country. With such great leaders, history, culture, traditions, and natural resources. We are also celebrating the World Wildlife Week right now, and this has a huge significance in our motherland. India is proud to be the home to almost 70% of the world's freely moving wildcats, that is, the majestic tigers. And I belong to the city which is the tiger capital of not only India but world as well, that is Nagpur. India has the highest density of tigers in the world. About 2,967 tigers live freely in their natural habitat in our country, in about 50 tiger reserves and other wildlife sanctuaries. These reserves were declared as Tiger Land after the launch of Project Tiger by our Prime Minister, late Mrs. Indira Gandhi ji. Tiger dominated forests are considered ecologically the best forests. Tiger not only controls the population of the herbivores, but is also a reference factor for considering a jungle as self-sustainable. About 40% of tigers in India live outside the protected territories, that is the national park or the wildlife sanctuary. Also, most of the rivers which we have in India have their origins from tiger dominated landscapes. So it would not be wrong to say that tigers are striped gods of water. Forests are a source which attracts rains and stores them also. Like when you get water in your taps for a few hours in your homes, for the rest of the hours, you collect the water in overhead tanks and use them later on. Similarly, forests are tanks and reservoirs of nature. The forest stores the water for us and it plays an essential role in maintaining the water table level all year round and works to provide clean filtered water for us in the rivers. Forest plays a role in regulating the fluxes of atmosphere moisture and rainfall pattern over the land. With only 2.4% of world's land area, India accounts for 7 to 8% of all recorded species, including 45,000 species of plants and 91,000 species of animals. It is one of the 18 mega diverse countries and contains 4 biological diversity hotspots with fresh air and oxygen, source of fresh water for the rivers, arresting of soil erosion, production of numerous nutritional elements, and habitat for a variety of flora and fauna. The ecosystem provides a lot of value to the mankind. As per the economic valuation of tiger reserves in India, the monetary values of flow benefits emanating from tiger reserves range from 8.3 billion to 17.6 billion annually. In terms of unit area, this translates into rupees 50,000 to 190,000 per hectare per year. In addition, tiger reserves protect and conserve the stock valued in the range of rupees 22 to 656 billion dollars. Apart from these national parks, there are about 553 wildlife sanctuaries present in our country, spread across the entire nation. India is also one of the 10 most forest rich countries in the entire world. The forest and tree cover in India is about 24.54%. The National Forest Policies of India aims at having 33% of geographical land as forest area. To achieve this and to allow growth of endangered species of animals like the tiger. It is important to consolidate the corridors through increased plantation activities in these patches, providing adequate mitigation measures wherever infrastructural development is happening, and to acquire and hand over private land to forest for its regeneration. Wildlife corridors are vital if we wish to plan the growth of numbers, which are health indicators of the forest. The forest not only provides us with economic benefits, but provides intangible benefits like air, water, other sources, which accounts for almost $33 trillion. Currently, India has about 20 to 25% of forest cover, but the vision statement of India is to have at least 33%, which is yet to be achieved. According to the national policy, this has to be achieved in near future itself. Out of this, only 5% of forest is reserved forest. Other 15% includes unreserved forest, revenue forest, urban forest, just to name a few. There are about 20 types of forest which are found in India, like the tropical wet evergreen forest, tropical semi-evergreen forest, tropical moist deciduous, littoral and swamp forest, tropical dry deciduous, tropical thorn forest, tropical dry evergreen, subtropical broad leveled hill forest, subtropical pine forest, subtropical dry evergreen, montane wet temperate forest, Himalayan moist temperate forest, Himalayan dry temperate forest, subalpine forest, moist alpine forest, moist alpine scrub forest, plantations, and grasslands. Forests are undiscovered territory and has a wide scope of development. It plays an important role in socio-economic development of a country. They are rich source of natural resources like energy, housing, firewood, timber, fodder, which provides employment to a large section of society of the rural population. Demand for forest products and services are exponentially increasing in the country with the rapid economic growth, industrialization, and also increase in population. Forestry in India is significant in rural industry and a major environmental source. Forest, I want to emphasize on this point that forest is a foster mother of agriculture. Forest sector is second largest sector only after agriculture, which divisions like major forest produce or minor forest produce. Major forest produce includes pulpwood or sandalwood, whereas minor forest produce includes tamarind, curry leaves, grass like bamboos, oils, gums, raisins, fibers, drugs, spices, just to name a few. But forest is much more than just fuel and wood. India has a thriving non-wood forest products like latex, gums, raisins, essential oils, flavors, fragrances, medicinal herbs, etc. India is the fastest growing forest based industry in the world, with industries like paper industry, match industry, silk industry, lakh industry, sports goods, and handicrafts. India is leading country in lakh production. Around 60% of the lac in the entire world is produced in only India. Our nation is also the largest producer or exporter of lac in the entire world. With about 100 million Indian citizens depend directly upon forest for their livelihood. In remote fringes of forest, about 300 million tribals and other local people live and depend either directly or indirectly on forests for their subsistence, making forest a multi-billion dollar industry with untapped resources in terms of natural resources, rural population, which can be well used by millions of people. But every sector has its own shortcomings. But at the same time, the solutions can be brought by innovations, technology, creativeness. And just like tigers are apex predator and the best conservationist of our forest, you IITians are the most apex minds and the sharpest minds in our country. With you folk have the potential to bring in tremendous positive changes, not just for wildlife, but how you can change how India shares the planet with other living creatures. This, as is really what will ultimately lead to a greater nation building process. Almost 15,000 students pass out every year from various IITs in India, and approximately 1 in 4 IITians leave our country in search of better opportunities abroad. But I would like to say and emphasize that there is a sea of opportunities in our country itself which is yet to be explored to the fullest. Forestry being one of them for IITians. There are few pitfalls in forest and rural population which can be easily dealt with by innovations, by technology that you all can provide. Some of the major problems that we face today is the problem of excessive grazing, firewood collection. Almost 70% of rural population even today depend on firewood collected from the forest for their domestic use. Another major concerning issue is the man-animal conflict, migration corridors, overuse of natural minerals and resources which needs immediate attention. If you IITians start working in this field, it will provide you with the horizon of chances to be independent entrepreneurs and also work in the process of nation building by empowering our rural population of India. Self-employment would give you chances for innovation, rural employment, grow your own personal curve, expand your horizons, and most importantly, nation building. Even if you work for other companies, you can devote a certain amount of time and energy to uplift the lower sections of the society and contribute towards the nation in a way which matters the most today. The potential of natural resources is huge, and the future is of sustainable growth and clean environment. And mark my words, post-COVID era, the world is going to experience a green revolution. So it is only fair and wise to start thinking about the environment today and start investing in natural resources. The industries which can thrive with the rural population are hotel industry, basic skill labor, technical training, production line, drivers, tailoring jobs. See, most women in the rural areas can be given simple training in sewing and can be easily employed. All we need to do is set up a market for them, and the industry can thrive on its own. Knowing the fact that tailoring is a dying art these days. And because these tribals and Adivasis and rural population is self-employed, their dependence on the forest for its natural resources is reduced, ultimately conserving the nature for our future generations. Our Indian government gives a lot of opportunities to young citizens of India with projects like Make in India, Atmanirbhar. They give subsidies to all the startups who want to work and create new ventures, avenues. All we need to do is to propose a plan and start working on it. The world becomes our canvas to paint the picture we want to see. Friends, I'm a resident dermatologist, but I devote a certain time to uplift the rural population and try to do my bit for the nation building. Hence, I hope everybody can do their bit to contribute towards this beautiful nation in which we are born. My NGO, Abhi Foundation, provides opportunities to work on projects related to wildlife, mainly tigers, and other environmental factors too. So, if anybody wants to know more about these work, please feel free to get in touch with me and we can work together to bring about a change in this world. And as Mahatma Gandhi rightly said, and I quote, what we are doing to the forest of the world is but a reflection of what we are doing to ourselves and to one another. And I unquote. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Okay, that's a very great talk, doctor. If
Thank
you have any questions, you can ask Dr. Jeril by emailing him directly on jerilbanite@yahoo.com. I'm just sending this on the chat screen. You can just open your chat screen.
Or Harshal, we can take a few questions right now as well.
Yeah. If anyone has any question, then just ask.
Yeah, hello, sir. This is Raju. This is Raju Prajapati, sir, from branch of food technology.
Yes.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you are.
please do.
Yes, sir. So I was asking, like, we have, as you told that in India we are doing great in the field of, like, we have a major part of India is okay. We have a lot of things like forest and all, but at the same time, we have the problem like climate change and all due to we don't have the up to the mark that we need as a forest. Okay, another thing is many of the times we'll be having a project like Kaveri that run by many of the personalities. Then will be whenever world environment day will be coming or some options will be coming, we'll be having a lot of things like plantation and all, but that project will not be completed. Like after even planting, no persons will be seeing that. Like see, uh, after planting, we need something like no, it should be taken care so that it can grow well. So after plantation, what will happen? 60 to 80% the plants will just go ruin. Nothing will happen after that. Okay, so how can we motivate the persons or the authorities that they are doing like even forest department we have and they'll not be taking care, and many of the times that cutting of the trees will happen in a like grabbing things like that, and nobody will taking care in the back of society or back of the system. It will happen, and we don't care even. So what's the solution of that we should have? Like no, one more thing is Indian education system that you already we are Indians, we know that we are a few part of the society that are Indians or they are well educated, but the lot of the part of society they are not educated well and they don't have even a lot of things. So I would like to know, sir, how what are the solution that we can have? Thank you. Sir, your microphone is off, sir. Your microphone is off.
Oh, sorry. Is my microphone on now? Am I
Yeah, sir. Yeah,
audible?
yeah.
Okay. So I would like to dissect this question into two halves. One was for accountability of all the projects which have been done or halfway done, and second part which you mentioned about education system. So with the first question or the first part of the question, See, accountability is very important in our infrastructure. Fortunately, we have RTI, which has recently been introduced in our Indian constitution or Indian legal system, which is a very powerful equipment or powerful ammunition that we common citizens have. Having said so, there was a project in Maharashtra. Mr. Harshal might be knowing that last year and last to last year, there were a few crore plantation happening by the forest department or the government of Maharashtra. That is,
Yeah.
they planned or proposed and shown on paper that they have planted 33 crore saplings. Now understand, planting these saplings is not as important as making them survive for years together. And no forest can be made by artificial plantation. It is always natural selection of the plants and shrubs and trees and other microbes, everything, scavengers, that makes a forest a very sustainable forest. Artificial forests are never the answer for or an alternative to the natural grown forest. This being said, one point. Second, when the government or the forest department or any NGO are planning to plant these trees, it is a welcoming gesture and we should welcome it with warm hearts and open hands. But the accountability has to be taken care of. See, if they are planning to plant 100 trees, kindly we should make them accountable that plant 10 trees, but take care of them for 3 years at a stretch. If the tree or the plant or the sapling is taken care for 3 years at a stretch, the plant becomes self sustainable and it does not require any human interference to grow. So, first part of the question being, we have to make them accountable. If the forest department is planting these trees, we have to file RTIs, that is Right to Information Act, and get accountability from the forest department that what has happened to these trees and how many of them have survived. When these projects fail, we have to make them accountable. We have to unfortunately, we have to knock the doors of the High Court and take the legal course of action to make them answer what has went now. Coming to the second part about the education system, this is one more point which I have been advocating since a long time, that environmental causes and wildlife should be introduced in primary education system itself. There should be outdoor classes which should be taken or which should be conducted by the schools and colleges where these students are taken out, taken to wildlife sanctuaries, to not necessarily wildlife sanctuaries, but in the nature. When they touch, when they feel, when they understand why and how important the nature is, they are more sensitive towards the environment. See, just reading in the books, may it be primary school, may it be high school, may it be college, undergraduation college, post graduation college, we have read a lot that trees are very important for our survival. We have read that soil gives us so many nutrients, but in practicality, we fail at most of the times. So, in the primary education system itself, there has to be a radical change and practical approach has to be introduced, that these students are aware about the importance of environment and conservation, trees, plants, animals, herbivores, carnivores, and they practically understand and feel the nature. So, I think, is that does that justify your question, Mr. Raju?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it's fine. I have just one last question to you.
Please,
So
please.
yeah, so see, in India we have a many like Kanpur, Varanasi, Delhi, the most popular, like it has a pollution. I was asking, like, we have a lot of projects, even Ganga cleaning and all. We have like many forests, as you told. We have many projects going on. So, what is the reason that we are not able to cope up, even and with a passage of time, it is increasing way by way. It's going much worse than that. So, how we can get rectified with that? Because after plantation of all these things and after going a lot of, taking a lot of steps towards it, then also we are not able to rectify. So what should be the step to just cope up with it and we can go for like clarifying these things?
See, there is two P's I would like to mention over here. One is people's participation and people's perception. See, people's perception towards traditions and all the things which have superstitions which have been going on in our society for years together has to change now. I would like to thank you that you raised the question about Ganga.
So you got mute, sir. You got
Sorry,
mute. You got mute, sir.
am I audible now?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, so people's perception is very important. People's perception in the sense that superstition should be banned, all the traditions which had some wrong effect and hazardous effect, catastrophic effect on the environment and nature has to be dealt with urgently, immediately, and today. Just to cater to some sections of the society because it is their beliefs, religious superstitions, and traditions which is damaging our earth today. There is no planet B. So we need to take care of our planet today. The tradition of ash immersion in the rivers has been polluting our rivers tremendously. The nutritional value, the purification process of a river has has degraded a lot during all these years. So immersion of ashes has to be stopped. So for that we need people's participation. When I say about people's perception, I talk about traditions, I talk about superstitions. And with people's participations, I talk about people helping each other, making each other understand that whatever we are doing can be changed. Similarly, when we use wood to cremate the bodies, there is a very good alternative that is LPG gas, which prevents so many tons of kgs, tons and tons of wood that can be prevented from being fell down and the pollution which it creates. So these are few small changes we need to bring in our society and bring in our mindset to protect our nature for our future generation.
Well, doctor, we can take one more question.
Sure.
That is from Parul.
Yes.
So she is asking, how can we help wildlife conservation? So can you
Correct.
shed some light on this?
So, wildlife conservation is a very broad concept one has to understand. As IITians, I would not like to talk like a layman, or if I'm talking to uh, junior high group or normal people, I would say that conservation belongs or starts at home. But being IITians, you can come up with innovative ideas to prevent overgrazing of a forest. Am I audible? Hello?
Yeah, doctor.
Hello?
Yes, go on,
Yes, sir, you
doctor.
are audible.
Okay. So, as IITians, as the elite students of our country, you can work in the in many factors. You can create avenues for these rural villages. You can create alternatives for grazing land. See, overgrazing inside the forest is the most uh, pressing point in today's world. So this grazing, you can create new grazing grounds. You can create new variety of grasses by experimentation, which will produce much better grass in a shorter time, which can be used for cattle. Second, for firewood. See, 70% of rural population is still dependent on firewood and timber for their domestic use. You can come up with cheaper options and easier options which can be provided to rural population to use them instead of firewoods. Then talking about fences, there is a huge problem and menace about fencing, which is electrified with high tension, uncontrolled electricity from the poles, which is leading cause of poaching, deaths of tigers, many herbivores, which is later used for bushmeat. Every year we lose many herbivores, many tigers due to electrocution. I have also made a video on electrocution and how painful death a tiger experiences when it is electrocuted. It is available on YouTube as well with the name "The Tiger is Dying. Speak Up Now." So you can come up with solutions like substitute to electric fencing, like solar fencing, which can be cheaper. See, there are solar fencing right now available for the villagers, but they have to shell out a lot of money, which they can instead use for crops. So if you can provide with cheaper options, providing them fencing, which will prevent the herbivores or the carnivores to come in their own land or their agricultural land, that is a very beneficial effect which will be for the rural villagers, and it will exponentially reduce the poaching, electrocution, man animal conflict, and that is how an IITN can help the rural population. Sorry to interrupt, but there is one more project which the IITN should work is about man animal conflict. See, these tigers, they migrate in search of five things. One is water, for better prey base, to find a spouse, or when their territory.
Your voice is not coming, doctor.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So, were my 5 points clear, or should I repeat them?
Yeah, please repeat.
Okay. So, one of the projects which is very important is to reduce the man-animal conflict. And when does man-animal conflict occurs is when these tigers or leopards, they migrate out of their own natural habitat. Now, when does a normal tiger, will migrate out from its natural habitat, that is the forest or a jungle? There are 5 points. One is in search of water, for which we can provide drinking water source inside the jungle itself, like saucer-shaped water tanks or solar water pumps or catchment dams, which is perennial source of water inside the forest. Second, in search of better prey base. So when the wildlife or the wild prey base is not good in a jungle, that means it is not sustainable. So hence a tiger will migrate outside its forest. Third is to find a spouse. If a male would find a female would find a male. This is a natural process. Fourth is when there is shrinking of territory. So when humans encroach the territory of free moving tigers, they have to move out of their natural territory to find a newer territory and a newer prey base. Fifth is when they are being pushed away by a dominant male. So male in capacity to increase its own territory, it pushes away the smaller tigers or the smaller males. Now, when these tigers are migrating, they come across patches where there is fragmentation of forest, where there is human civilization, and they come face to face with humans, which leads to man-animal conflict. But that does not necessarily mean that these tigers are man-eaters. They are coming face to face with a human being, which leads to unfortunate man-animal conflict. So how you can work on to prevent man-animal conflict is if you can come up with a technology to have maybe a radio chip which can be fit inside the skin of a tiger, a freely moving tiger. So whenever it crosses its natural habitat, by good monitoring system, the villagers can be notified, the forest department can be notified that this particular tiger is moving out of its own natural territory. So kindly inform the villagers around or on the periphery of the jungle to be precautious and to not to venture outside their work tremendously amazing for wildlife conservation and tiger protection and prevent man-animal conflict, ultimately protecting humans as well.
Doctor, it's a very good idea for developing cheap and installing it. So it will definitely cover up man-animal conflicts. But talking about this man-animal conflicts, as the incident earlier happened this year, that is in Kerala with pregnant elephant. So what your views on that? Means in Kerala, people are means it is happening on a day-to-day course. So, will you please share your views on this?
Correct. I would like to go back to the two P's which I said: perception and participation. So, human perception is that we are a dominant species and we can dominate each and every species on the planet, which has to be stopped. See, a elephant or a tiger. I would like to even talk about turtles. So, turtles, after being born, they move around everywhere, but again travel back to the original place where they were born to give new eggs or to give new uh, offsprings. Similarly, there is known and designated and identified migratory corridors even in north, even in south, where there is abundance of elephant population. Similarly, in central India, where there is dense population of tigers, there is known migratory corridors of tigers as well. Now, due to fragmentation of these forests, which were connected in the previous years, in 1800s, the Britishers also introduced wildlife policies just to prevent this, the problems which we are facing today. When they come in migratory corridors and there is human and animal interaction, we being the dominant species, we try to kill them and we try to poach them. So the incident which you just mentioned is a clear example of man animal conflict and revenge killing. I repeat, revenge killing. So that poor pregnant elephant was fed with a pineapple, which was, which had, in local language we say, uh, uh, pressure bombs. Pressure bombs. So basically, it is like a land grenade. If you apply pressure, then only it blasts. So until the elephant picked it up and swallowed for killing the wild boars or pigs or herbivores in Maharashtra region, but this is also prevalent in South India where this was a revenge killing. Just when elephants or other herbivores come inside um, the agricultural land and when they face financial losses, although the government compensates for all of them, still there is revenge killing, and the perception of humans is to get away with everything. Whatever they do is all right, and that is justified. And this one particular incident was that came in the media on a very high scale, but there have been incidences which are happening day in and day out every day across the country.
Okay, doctor, we have one more question from Shelly.
Sure.
So, Shelly, you can ask the question. Please unmute yourself.
Or you can just type it out there. I'll read the question.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Nowadays, we have lots of the water on the earth.
Correct.
In India, approximately 2 by 3% of India is flooded. But
Correct.
we don't have water to drink. So, what is the problem? Means groundwater recharge problem is there, or means recharge ratio of recharge and taking out water from the ground, there is problem. Means recharge rate is low and taking out water rate is high, or what is the problem?
Correct. Can I please know your name, sir?
Deepak.
Deepak.
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it is Mr. Deepak, right?
Yes, sir.
See, Mr. Deepak, when we pour water on our head, on our
Yes, sir.
hair, does it dry easily?
No.
And when we pour water on our body, which has no hair,
Yes, sir.
the water slips down
Yes, sir. It is dried.
easily.
Yeah.
Correct. So, same is the logic behind water conservation. When there are trees, when there are forests, they absorb the water. The roots keep the water and they recharge the ground water table. But due to excessive soil erosion, due to excessive cutting of trees, now understand with 1.3 billion or 1.4 billion citizens in India, we just have 20 to 25% of land which is forest area. Now,
Yes.
forest is also responsible to attract the rains. Now, when there is shrinking of territory, shrinking of trees, animals, everything, how will the forests attract the rains and how will they recharge the groundwater table? See, we get floods, we get the dams get broken during the rainy season, but that is only during the rainy season. What about the rest of the year? Forests prove to be the catchment areas, they prove to be the reservoirs, they prove to be our water tanks of urban areas. They are our rural or the natural water tanks or the reservoirs for us to provide drinking water. There are places in our country where there is drought like situation all throughout the year. This is only because of climate change which has been brought by humans. And if we don't stop right now or if we don't correct our behavior, this is going to go worse. As you would see during COVID lockdown, the Himalayan ranges were visible from hundreds of kilometers apart. The pollution had reduced drastically. There was no smog, the air was so clean in each and every city. There were videos which were being circulated on WhatsApp, on Facebook, that the wildlife has reclaimed its area or territories. In Assam or in northern states, there were videos which were coming that the wild bisons or the wild Indian gore, as we say, they were coming on the streets. There were sightings of peacocks, there were sighting of porcupines. So this is a proof that we have taken over their areas which belongs to them, which can be easily rectified with our simple measures.
Thank you, sir.
Most welcome.
Hello, am I audible now?
Yes, you are, madam. Please
Okay, apologies, sorry.
no problem.
So, sir, my question is like, as we all know, like it is quite prevalent that in search of employment, people migrate from rural to urban areas. But as you have mentioned that we can generate employment within rural areas itself. So,
Yes.
sir, my question is, how can we build a bridge between livelihood options and sustainable use of natural resources in the fringe villages?
Correct. Very, very. So, for rural population to be independent, first of all, I will start from very beginning. That is education system. You have to provide education system to each and every rural population, each and every kid that is present and who is living near a forest. They should be given, rather than having small Adivasi schools in each and every villages near forests, there should be one big international level or international standard school where all facilities should be provided to these children. They should be made at par to compete with urban students and even international students. This is how they will have very good technical skills, they will have educational skills, and they will be able to compete with the world which is running right now. If they do not have education, they venture out inside the forest, they enter into illegal trading of animals, illegal trading of timberwood, uh, wildlife destruction, forest destruction. See, Adivasis have been living near the forest for hundreds of years. But the new generation, they want easy employment, easy money, easy livelihood. For which is also possible. It is not that this is not possible. They can also have a very luxurious life, but they need to be educated first. When they can compete with the outside world, they will be employed in a good company. They will have self-sufficient income. They will be self-employed for that matter, and they will not venture inside the jungle. They will have a mental acumen that this jungle is what I require, and this jungle requires me, and they will reduce their atrocities on the wildlife. As well as, when these children or these young Indians are given education and good skill sets, they are our strength. We are 1.4 billion people. And sorry, my microphone is working up. I don't know why. Am I audible right now?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
sir. Yes, sir.
So, human resources is the most powerful equipment or the most powerful strength we have in our country, and this is how I believe the change can be brought in. If I have to talk to IITians, I will say just devote 1 hour of your week. I'm not even saying 1 hour a day, 1 hour of your week, and educate, adopt a village, and take online classes and give them proper education, technical education, practical knowledge about the outside world, and see the miracles you create in these children and the rural population. You don't even have to go out of the comfort zone of your room. You can very well do it from your home, sitting on your bed in your comfort zone. This is how we can create education. Giving, now talking about employment, if we create small industry, micro industries in the rural villages near the periphery of the forest, it is very doable. See, you have access to internet, you have access to social media, you have access to so many modern gadgets. All you have to do is create a market, an online market for these micro industries which are working in the rural areas, in the fringes, in the remotest area possible of the country. But if you create a market for them, if you create a demand for their products, they will survive in the place where they are, and they will not depend upon the forest to destroy them, but they will make use of it in a positive manner, and they will thrive. The industry itself will thrive.
Okay, I guess
Great, sir. Great. Thank you so much, sir.
yeah, you got your answer. If anything, I guess we can wind up now as our limit is approaching. I'm happy to tell you, doctor, that we are working on this online market concept under Rashtra Darshanam itself, and we also uh, planted 15 trees in IIT Guwahati itself, and we conserved them, and they are in a good condition. So I must say that it's a 100% survival, and we are also providing a free education, as you mentioned, to the underprivileged part of the IITG vicinity. The students are really poor, and we are giving them direct to direct lecture. But during this COVID period, we got means we are not connected with them right now, but we are working on it. And so finally, I just thank you, doctor, for this knowledge and wisdom which you shared. The statistics given by you are really amazing for Tigers Reserve in India. The types of forest uh, which you mentioned in your talk are, I guess, the term most of us heard today. It's really great. Their connection with economy of the country is yet mesmerizing, as well as you connected tigers and IITians for the betterment of environment and society as you related them. Thank you for that. It's really very enchanting. As well, you said that post-COVID era will be for green revolution. It is very hopeful thing, I must say. Your views on man-animal conflicts are really encouraging. So I thank you once again, and I thank you all the participants here for joining us today on this occasion of 2nd October, having Mahatma Gandhi Jayanti as well as having late Shri Lal Bahadur Shastri Jayanti. So thanks again to one and all, and take care. Bye.
Thank you, dear.